Hey everyone, thanks for watching. So today's video is going to be all about the new Morphe 3502 palette. I'm going to be showing you how I got this eye look. I'm going to be doing swatches of it, comparisons with the original 350 and also the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe, and of course giving my overall thoughts and review on the palette. So we have a ton to cover in today's video. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Okay, so first up, this is the new Morphe 3502 palette. It is $23. It's available right now on the Morphe website. I checked just before filming, it was still available. It will also be coming to Ulta Beauty, which is very interesting. Morphe is now going to be sold at Ulta. Looks like a lot of the items will be available starting October 22nd, and then in, I don't know if it's every store, but it will be starting in stores on October 27th. So just real quick to touch on how I got this palette, because it's a little bit of an interesting story. It released on Thursday the 12th, and I did order it about 15 minutes after it went for sale. I placed my order, I purchased this palette, and I purchased a whole bunch of other things because I was trying to reach the $75 for free shipping. We all know I need free shipping in my life, even if that means ordering a bunch of other things instead of just a $23 palette, but that's how I live my life. And about 40 minutes later, I want to say, my doorbell rang and it was the Morphe 3502 palette. I made a joke on my Snapchat that Morphe has 1 hour shipping to Iowa. Of course, I was just kidding. This was sent to me in PR, so that was really interesting to me. I didn't know it was coming. I have received a PR from Morphe in the past. I had seen a bunch of influencers getting this palette the week before. I didn't get mine, and I thought that's fine. I know some companies do send you everything. Some companies send you things from time to time. It doesn't really bother me. I know I'm a smaller influencer, so I never expect to get any sort of packages. And I just figured when I saw everyone getting it in PR and I wasn't, I was just gonna go ahead and buy it on Thursday like normal, which is what I did. And then this showed up. I am very thankful for this because it allowed me to play with it the entire weekend and to get my review video up just a little bit quicker than I would have if I, were to still be waiting on my order from Morphe. So I did want to say that I did receive this in PR, but I had ordered it. Because it came so quickly after I had placed my order, I was able to cancel my original order with Morphe, which was nice because, like I said, I ordered a lot of stuff that I probably didn't need to hit that $75 mark. But I did want to be upfront about that. I'm not affiliated with Morphe. I don't have a code or anything like that. I just do occasionally receive PR packages from them, which is really, really nice. So to move on, Morphe has recently rebranded. So you can see the logo here looks a little bit different from the logo on the original 350 palette. I did purchase the 350 a while back. I've had this palette for quite some time. I could also tell it's still like the, regular black plastic packaging like some of the older palettes, but it's almost like it's thicker. I don't know if that makes sense, but I could tell it has a little bit more oomph to it, which I think is pretty nice. And then when you open it up, these are all of the shades, and it does come with a plastic insert that has all of the shade names on it. I always wish that the shade names would be on the actual palette, but what I'll probably do, just like what I did with the Jaclyn Hill palette, I think I'm just going to tape this right up here so that way I can see the shade names, because when you do tutorials and such on YouTube, it's nice to be able to say the shade names. And I know I will lose this. It was on my floor this weekend. We were dog sitting and the puppy got a hold of it, so I don't know if you can see there's like dog slobber on it, but that's just the life I live. That's okay. This is what the inside of the palette looks like. I did feature this in a Will I Buy It video. I said that I wanted to buy it. I was very drawn to it. I like Morphe eyeshadow palettes. I've purchased several myself, the 350, the 35T, the 35R. I do have the Jaclyn Hill palette, and it's definitely one of my absolute staples. It's one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes, and I was really excited when I saw the rebranding of the 350. They said that they were relaunching the palette to celebrate 2 years since the 350 came out. The 350, this is the original. This was definitely super hyped. The original 350 will also be sold on the Ulta website. It looks like those are there as well. So here is the two palettes side by side. So you can see that they are definitely very similar, but to me this one is definitely more colorful. There's a lot more of like the oranges and the reds in here. And then with the 350, I feel like it focuses more on the lighter shades. You can see like the first 2 rows and the first 2 rows over here especially, you have a lot of those really, really light shades. So I feel like even when you look at these two, my eyes are immediately drawn to the 3502 because I just feel like it's a very vibrant palette, and that was what excited me about it. I was also excited because they came out with the 35R a little bit before the Jaclyn Hill palette released, and I thought the formula was really awesome. And then they came out with the Jaclyn Hill palette and I thought the formula was even better. So I was excited to see what the formula would be like in here. And I mean, for sure, it's a step above, 2 steps above, 3 steps above the original 350 and some of the, you know, older palettes that I have tried from Morphe, like the 35T and things like that. I feel like it is definitely much better. I also feel like I'm talking very fast because we have so much to get through in this video. I don't want to make it too long, but definitely the formula is much better. I mean, even when I was going through and swatching this palette, when I was like putting my fingers into the mattes, they are very like creamy. The shimmers in here, every single shimmer in here is like that foiled shadow, and kind of what I first experienced with the 35R palette and definitely what I experienced in the Jaclyn Hill palette, and they are absolutely stunning. I did go through and swatch everything, so I will insert some swatch photos in here for you to see, but I will also do a couple swatches of some of my favorite items here because I would like to do some on camera as well. So these are some swatches from the first row. We have Universal, and then Orb, and then also Amber, and then Sizzle. So here are those swatched out, and those are me just, you know, doing and then swiping it. I don't have primer or anything like that. I didn't use a damp finger or anything like that either. And then here are some swatches from the second row. We have Heat, and then Ablaze, and then Sauce, and then Ruby. So here are those swatches. I mean, this row is probably my favorite from the palette. I've already gone into that row several times because I mean, just the payoff that you're getting with these shades is so good. Here are some from the third row, and I'm doing the horizontal rows just so you know. We have Zodiac, and then Polished, and then Rustic, and Zippy. And I'll go ahead and show you just how easily these swatch on my hand because it's really like a thing of beauty. Oh, so pretty. So those are all shimmers from the third horizontal row that I'm doing. Stunning. I have used Polished all over my eyes. I do have an Instagram tutorial that I will leave linked down below if you want to see it using this palette, and I used Polished. Going into the second to last row, we have some deeper shades here. So this is Risky, and then Chestnut, and also Brave, and then In the Zone. And so here are those matte shades from the second to last row, horizontal in the palette. And then from the bottom row, we have Fawn, and then Brunette, Muddy, and then the black in the palette, which is called Whiz. And then here are those four swatched out on my hand. I'll insert some swatch photos here, and how I did those swatches is I actually went vertical down the row from the palette, and I took a couple different photos because I can't fit 35 swatches all on my arm. It's just not possible. So I kind of broke it up, but I will go ahead and insert those now if you want to see those swatches. And I did do the swatches the same way. My fingers were dry. I just went in and I just go 1, 2, 3 and then swatch. I didn't have any primer or anything laid down on my arm, so that is how I do my swatches. So I'll insert those photos here. It definitely is better than the 350 for sure. It reminds me a ton of the Jaclyn Hill palette, especially these shimmers in here. I think the shimmers are definitely better than the mattes. A lot of the mattes are fantastic, you know, especially these like in the top section, some of the lighter shades. The bottom row does not impress me as much, except for the black. I actually thought the black was really good, and I don't like the black in the Jaclyn Hill palette. This is an actual, I feel like this is even blacker. I don't think it's the blackest black eyeshadow that I've ever used, but it was definitely better than the Jaclyn Hill one, and it's just easier to blend. In the Jaclyn Hill palette, I felt like that black shadow was kind of skippy and not very blendable, and this black I'm actually pretty impressed with. But other than that, the bottom row I didn't think were the best, kind of hard to blend. When we get to the like top 3 rows of the palette, very impressed. I really don't have any complaints. I like these browns. I mean, every single shimmer in here, I feel like hits it out of the park, honestly. I have not been displeased with any of the shimmers that I've tried on my eyes, and I have tried almost every single one except for like 2 or 3, I want to say. But other than that, like, I've been trying so hard to try out as many as I could so I could make this review video. Of course, I wanted to do a review video versus a first impressions because I just feel like those are a little bit more helpful, and especially now that this palette is coming into Ulta, I know that more people are even more you know, questioning, is the palette worth it and all of that. So I really wanted to be able to play with it as much as I could. The only thing that I feel like is kind of missing from the palette is that like matte white shade that I go in with first. The original 350 does have that shade. They have lots of transition colors, lots of the deep browns. I love that they included a black in here because the original 350 doesn't have a black, and like I said, this is actually a fantastic black. And one concern that I had was, you know, maybe some of these shimmers over here, like I feel like on camera, like these two especially, look super similar. In person you can tell a difference, but when I'm looking at my viewfinder, I'm like, those look super similar. So I was a little bit concerned about that, but going through and swatching them, there actually are not even like minuscule differences between them. There are big differences between them, I think. And putting them on my eyes, I felt like you could see a difference, so I was happy about that. I did go through and over the weekend as well, I swatched the new 3502 compared to the 350 compared to the Jaclyn Hill palette. I had them all 3 laid on my bench. I opened all of them. I stared at them a lot. I played around with some of the different shades, swatched different shades, and I have a couple of video clips that I can insert here, you know, trying to find a dupe and trying to see, you know, really, if you do have the 350, is it worth it to have the 3502? Is there enough differences in there? Is the formula different enough? The color's different enough? And that sort of thing. And then also to the Jaclyn Hill palette, because I know when the Jaclyn Hill palette came out, a lot of people said if you have the 350, you don't need the Jaclyn Hill palette. So I wanted to see if I could find any comparable dupes in those clips as well. So here are some swatches of matte browns. So the first 3 are from the new 3502 palette. We have Universal, ORB, and Tan. The next 3 swatches are from the original 350. In the first row, I have shade number 5, the second row, shade number 7, and third row, the first shade. And then the last 4 are from the Jaclyn Hill palette. We have the Silk Cream, MFEO, Butter, and Pooter. So I think ORB from the 3502, and then this shade right here from the original 350. This is in the second row and the 7th shade. I think those 2 are pretty similar. And then here are some swatches of oranges and reds. So these first 2 oranges right here, the first one is from the new 3502 palette. That one is called Ablaze. The second one is from the original 350. That's in the first row, and it's the 7th shade. There wasn't really a matte orange in the Jaclyn Hill palette, so I just swatched those 2 since those are matte orange. And then the next shades we have are more red based. So the first 2 shades are from the new 3502 palette. We have Heat and then Fire. And then the next one is from the 350. It's in the third row. It's the shade 7. And then the last 2 are from the Jaclyn Hill palette. It's Hunts and then Jax. Jax looks red in the pan, but it's actually more of like a cranberry shade. So closest ones out of these, I would say, are Heat and then Hunts. But I think Hunts has more brown in it, like maybe a brown undertone. And then this one is more just red, I would say. And then here are some darker shades. The first 2 are the blacks in the 3502 and then the Jaclyn Hill palette. The 350 does not have a matte black in there, so those are the shades Wiz and Abyss. And then the next 3 are some darker shades across the 3 palettes. The first one is the 3502 in the shade Muddy. The middle one is from the 350. It's in the last row and it's the 5th shade. And then the last one is from the Jaclyn Hill palette, and that is in Central Park. Here are some swatches of shimmer shades. So from the 3502 palette, starting down here, we have the shade Ruby, and then the next 3 are all from the Jaclyn Hill palette, and that is Cranapple, Firework, and then Hillster. And then the last set of swatches are some more like gold tones. The first two are from the 3502 palette. They are Zippy and Rustic. The third one is from the original 350. It's in the last row. It's the 7th shade. And then the last one is from the Jaclyn Hill palette, and that is in Queen. Really, I'm not finding a lot of dupes shimmer-wise. This is the third set that I've swatched on my arm, and I just rubbed the other two off because nothing was really too similar. And then here's two more that I found that I feel like are somewhat similar to each other, but I still wouldn't say that they're dupes. First one is from the 3502, it's in Polished, and then the second one is from the Jaclyn Hill palette, and that one is in Firework. I'm going to compare it against the original 350. I mean, you're getting a better eyeshadow palette, you're getting a better formula, you're getting, you know, more pigmented, more blendable shades, and you're getting actual like foiled shimmer shadows versus these, which I feel like are just kind of like your standard shimmers. This one is $23, so I don't know, I kind of almost say even if you do have the 350, if you like these shades in here and if you think it would be worth it to you, I would suggest getting the new 3502. I just think it's a better palette as a whole. Also, if you don't have the original 350 and you're trying to decide between which palette, I would say the 3502, it's definitely a huge step up from the original. Do you need them both? That's up for you to decide. How often do you think that you'll reach into this one? Do you not really reach into your 350 anymore? You know, maybe you're not as attracted to these shades. Then I wouldn't suggest it, you know, things like that. But if you like a lot of the Morphe palettes, if you're into these much more vibrant shades, like that's the thing that I keep thinking when I look at this palette. It is so much more vibrant and colorful than this palette, which almost, now that I'm looking at this one, I feel like this is a much more neutral palette, which is where when I used to think of the 350, I would think orange and fall and all of that, but compared to this one, I mean, honestly, to me, I feel like there's really not a comparison in my opinion. So I know a lot of people were saying that the 350 was similar to the Jaclyn Hill palette, so here they are together. I really don't feel like these are very similar. I mean, the Jaclyn Hill palette has like the greens and the purples and the blues, which you're obviously not getting any of those colors in here. I feel like both palettes have a lot of the browns, like the matte browns and stuff, and a few of the red shades, but again, I really struggled to find dupes. I think the black is better in the 3502 for sure, but I feel like I'm reaching into these palettes for different things. Honestly, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't feel like these are super similar. The Jaclyn Hill palette is more expensive, and I mean, I do have a review video on the Jaclyn Hill palette if you'd want to see that one. I can link it down below. This also will be available at Ulta, and apparently it's getting a makeover as well. It's going to have different packaging and stuff, so that's very interesting. If you have the Jaclyn Hill palette, and would I say to get the 3502? I would say yes, because I feel like they're different enough. Some of the shimmers in here you're not getting in the Jaclyn Hill palette, and I think this is what really makes this palette such a standout, is those fabulous foiled shades. Kind of what I think comparison-wise, and hopefully some of the swatches helped out as well across the three palettes. But I did do this eye look as a tutorial as well. If you want to see it, I'll jump into that clip next. I did ask on my Twitter what kind of look you wanted to see. I said orange shimmer, hot red, or bronze or gold look. And hot red won, but the gold bronze was right behind it, so I thought I would try to merge the two. So if you would like to see a little tutorial on how I got this eye look, I'll go ahead and insert those clips here. So jumping into the palette, I'm going to pick up the fourth shade in the first row. This is called Tan, and I'm using the Morphe E27 brush, and I'm just going to use this as my first transition color and sweep it into the crease. I am going to come in with tape later, but I actually find tape very uncomfortable, so I don't put it on until I absolutely have to have it on. And then I'm going to come into this second shade here in the second row. It is called Contour. I'm using a Sigma E25 for this one, and I'm just going to apply that a little bit lower than the first shade, and again, just blend it out. And then this is where I'm going to use the tape, so I just use a little bit of Scotch tape, and I apply it to the back of my hand first and take it off a couple times. This leaves it a little bit less sticky, so it doesn't hurt your face when you pull it off. I'm coming into the shade Fire here, which is the beautiful red. I'm just using a blending brush from the Morphe Copper Dreams set, and I'm just going to slowly start to build this up because it is a pretty intense color. I'm just going to slowly, I make sure any excess is tapped off, slowly start to build it up on the outer part of the crease. And I use the tape as a guide to kind of start to wing out that shade as well. Work to slowly build it up. I don't want to come in too intense right away and then have to work really hard to blend it out. So that is why I work in these small sections. For the shimmer, I'm going to use the shade Bronze. It is in the first row, top row. It's the last shade. And I'm going to use the Sigma E56 brush. I did spray my brush with a bit of MAC Fix Plus first because I wanted to make it really metallic. And then I'm just going to apply this to the inner part of my eye. And just slowly, like when I get to the center of my eye, I'm just kind of brushing it into that red. Then I'm going to come back to the E27 and just kind of make sure everything is blended together. And then I'm going to peel off the tape so we have that nice sharp line there. I did add some lashes. These are the Coquette lashes from Blinking Beaute. I didn't do any liner because I just really like the way that this looks. So I'm going to finish off the lower lash line. I did put some brown liner into my waterline, and then I'm going to pick up the shade Fire on a Morphe E43. It's just a flat definer brush, and then I'm just going to push this shade along the lower lash line. And then I'm going to grab the shade Contour, which was the second shade that we added onto our eyes, and I'm going to use a pencil brush. This is the Morphe M507, and I'm just going to sweep that along the lower lash line and kind of help blend out that red as well. I'll just add some mascara a little bit later to my bottom lash line, but then that is how I got this fiery, bronzy eye look. To wrap it all up, I mean, the main point of making this video is, would I recommend the Morphe 3502 palette, and do I think it is worth the $23? And that is a yes. I have been very impressed with this palette, very impressed with the shades. I hope that my comparisons with the 350 and the Jaclyn Hill palette helped, because I totally understand, you know, not all of us are makeup collectors and love getting all of these new releases, which I can totally understand. So hopefully some of that helped as well. And, you know, of course, at the end of the day, it's just makeup, and it's completely your decision on what you choose to buy and what you choose to pass over. If you are interested and you think that you would get a lot of use out of it, I think for $23 that this is freaking bomb. I mean, I was shocked when I saw that they weren't raising the price on this palette, because I honestly thought that they were going to. So to keep it at the $23 for all of these different shades and how well that they perform, I'm very impressed. I have to give it to Morphe on this one. I think this is a freaking awesome palette. So I hope that my review and the other items in here helped you guys out. I'm sorry if this was a longer video, but I really wanted to try to get everything into this video. Let me know some feedback down below. Did you guys order the palette? Are you excited for it? Are you skipping out on it? Are you waiting for it to come into Ulta? I would love to know your thoughts as well on what you think of the palette. And if you guys did find this video helpful, I hope that you will give it a thumbs up. I hope that you'll also consider subscribing before you go, and I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.